Welcome everyone to the dry and dusty Old Western 1881 railroad town of Deming, New Mexico. Founded as a division point along the Southern Pacific Railroad when the highways came along, Deming went from Old Western town to modern highway town and is now full of layers and layers of old forgotten gas stations and truck stops. And that's the way I knew the town, especially along the Interstate for years and years as I'd traveled through New Mexico. But I've never taken a walk along the charming Gold or Silver Street. Never realized when I was younger how full of amazing old Western buildings this town was. I mean, this is an old 1800s, very late 1800s powerhouse right here. This place is steeped in Western lore and history. It's got tons of weird, quirky things in town, and is not only famous for its railroad and old Western history, but also for its Native American history, specifically the Mimbres culture, which had some of the most sophisticated pottery, design-wise, ever found in the Southwest, and it's celebrated all over town. There's sort of an offshoot of the Mogollon people, if you're kind of up on your Southwestern Native American history. If not, that's okay. And there is a huge museum down here on Silver Street in the old armory, from what I understand, celebrating all the different layers of local history, which I'm dying to check out. First, look at this though. Look at these two old filling stations back to back. One looks a little more 1930s or 40s. One looks a little more mid-century. I don't know what this building was, but to me, it almost looks like it could have been a very early filling station, maybe 1920s, gas station, we would call it now. Oh, a cat! It's funny, once you start training yourself to look for these things, you start spotting them all over the place. And it not only greatly enhances your understanding of old Main Street USA, but it also makes them a lot more fun to walk around in. That's the Luna County Courthouse right there, by the way. But today I'm not interested in the old county courthouse. I'm interested in the museum, which happens to be surrounded by a pretty cool little Veterans Memorial Park here with a freaking tank parked outside. I'd love to take that thing for a joyride, but it doesn't look like it's moved around very much in a long time. And if I didn't know the museum was here already, that would have got my attention. All right, here it is, located in the old Deming Armory, the Deming Luna Mimbres Museum. Luna is the county. The name Deming is the maiden name of Charles Crocker's wife. Charles Crocker was a big shot on the railroad. And Mimbres, as I've already explained, is from the ancient Native American peoples who once inhabited this very area. Just noticing across the street before I go in, the old historic customs house from 1848 to 1900. 1848, that's before the town was even founded. How? The historic Seaman Field home. They do tours in there, but it's closed today. However, I think we're gonna find this museum open because there are cars parked out here. Look at some Mimbres pottery right there. Not original, a large version. And you enter the museum through the armory basement. It's an absolutely massive structure, so I'm hoping there's lots to see inside. Look at this old USO painting on the side. I'm pretty stoked on this. All right, let's go down there. Ooh, I am descending. Descending. Hey, look at that, they're looking for volunteers, guys. Oh wow, this place is huge. Even the map of the museum is huge. You come off the main room here to what the nice lady in the front recommended as the starting point. Look at all these historic photos. Here they are fighting a fire back in 1918. Here's the town around that same time period, which is freaking awesome to see. Big place. And then just racks and racks of old photos of the town and of the townsfolk from the old Western days all the way down to the present. I see why they call it the old timers room. Okay, moving on to another room here. Oh, before we get to that, look at this. The first paid telephone from El Paso, Texas. That's a very unusual thing to have. Look at the size of this doll and toy room in here. This could be a whole museum on its own. Oh my gosh, the amazing old books back here on these shelves, some of which are no doubt rare and valuable. This is amazing. You probably already noticed the huge ornate dollhouse, no doubt, but look at all the dolls and toys. This is incredible. No doubt all these are donations. Some of them are from modern times. Some of them go way, way, way back. Like Jesse Ventura right here, the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. But this is awesome. Have you ever come to a point where you had to throw away your old toys and you're like, you just couldn't bear to do it, but you don't know where to keep them? If you live in Deming, you could just come donate your childhood favorites to the museum and they'll keep them and put them on display for you. This is like actually kind of incredible. Goals. I'd love to put all my toys in a museum. I mean, I don't own a lot of dolls, so my museum would no doubt look a little different, but this is amazing. Hey, my great aunt Ruth Ann used to sell these Avon statues. All right, that was just a little side chamber. I'm now headed into the main museum floor here. Wow, and look at this. We're already seeing some of the Mimbres pottery dug up from the nearby area. Dude, it's so ornate and intricate and amazing that this stuff was made so long ago. My wife, Allie, has been taking ceramics classes and doing ceramics, and it gives me a whole new appreciation for the people who created this stuff by hand from just the materials they found in the earth and then colored and designed them so intricately, again, by hand, and then had to fire them in like ovens made in the dirt with brush for fuel. The Mimbres people disappeared around the 1100s. So some of this pottery we're looking at is more than 1,000 years old. I like this little guy in the middle. Dude, that is incredible. I'm less interested in stuff like this parlor furniture or these modern ceramic fish, but they're certainly not interesting. Ooh, be careful where you touch these. I heard they have consequences. Oh, wow, there's more. There's pottery everywhere. Dude, look at that. How incredible. It's that design work. You notice these ladle type things. You notice jewelry later made out of potsherds, little pieces of old pots. Oh, you got little grinding stones, mortar and pestles, bone tools, knives and needles. You'll notice a lot of these have holes in them, almost like its life was over. There's a lot of theories as to why. Modern Pueblo peoples have a lot of explanations too. But if you look carefully, a lot of these are reconstructed out of pieces, because oftentimes when they were left behind in ancient times, they were purposefully destroyed. Maybe when someone passed away, or they left a place. Like I said, there's a lot of different theories and explanations. Dude, I thought we were reaching the back of the museum. Look at this. Not even close. But there's another pottery exhibit off to the side here. What the heck? This place is like a maze. That's what makes it amazing. They've got different pottery from everywhere from Casas Grande in Mexico to all kinds of various places all over the Southwest. You look at the sandals. If you left me on an island, there's no way I could weave a sandal. I find that impressive. Look at this Hopi dragonfly piece of pottery from 1750. I promise this whole video won't be just pottery. When I was in school, the word pottery was almost like a bad word. Oh my gosh, this just keeps going and going and going and going. Holy cow. I remember this kid in my school, Corey Kidder, and I would answer every question when we were doing our studies of ancient Greece. We'd answer every question with pottery. I think it was his idea. Because our teacher would go on and on and on about the ancient Greek pottery, which was so boring. I think you need to be a little older to appreciate it. Like now I know I'm looking at fragments of things people held and made by hand a millennia ago. Oh, look at this stone axe right there, stone axe head. I mean, what were they using this stuff for? And look at the design work on it. Wow. It's easy to call it simplistic, but you try drawing that. These people couldn't use ChatGPT to make their artwork back in the day. There's something about art, specifically handmade art. And you could use various digital tools. I'm not against that, obviously. I mean, I'm using a digital camera and uploading this to YouTube. But there's something about knowing this came from a human being. I'm not taking a strong position. I know it's an ongoing debate. But there you go, look at all this stuff. I know I'll bore you to death if I show you every single thing. So we'll move on from the pottery, but this is, if you're into this stuff, holy cow. I don't think I've ever seen a collection more impressive. The jewelry, the pots, the slippers, the ladles, the artwork, the design. Incredible. Okay, I'm leaving the pottery wing now and going through this side door here where we are exposed to a vast collection of old church pews, artwork on the walls, quilts and banjos. Wow, look at all the fancy old pianos and organs. You know, looking at this dusty town now, you wouldn't expect anything like this to have been here. But back in the day, people had taste and class and style and sophistication, even in the most remote corners of the frontier. Dude, and speaking of the frontier, oh my gosh, this is awesome. Look at this old chuck wagon used from 1900 to 1923. This is how they used to feed the cowboys. And there were definitely a lot of real life cowboys out here in this part of southern New Mexico. This is where you'd ride in to camp, get your water. Dude, even on this mock porch behind me, there's all kinds of little wooden pieces and explanations of what they are. Pieces of windmills, there's people's wedding dresses, Navy uniforms. This says early 1900s wedding gown. That is a tiny person. And look at, just like the dolls, there's a place for ladies of all kinds of generations to donate their old family wedding gowns. Same thing over here with the saddles. Look at all these saddles donated by local families. Some of them are quite old. I'm not a saddle expert. It's something I can't get into or understand because I don't really ride horses, obviously, but I can appreciate that many of them are old and authentic. Ah, look at this fella over here in the bunkhouse.
I ain't from the Old West. I just grew up reading the Bunkhouse Boys from the Lazy Daisy Ranch. I volunteer my time here at the museum. I'm living the dream, boys.
Look at that. You got everything from bunkhouse to outhouse. Every once in a while I go to a museum and open the outhouse. Nope, no toilet in there. And something will happen. There'll be a noise or one of those, hey, get out of here, things going on. So it never hurts to check. Look at this amazing cowboy hat display over here. These are all old original hats donated by different local families. There's an insane geode room, or I don't know what else you call these. Lots of them are actual geodes. Lots of them are fossils and crystals, agates. I mean, this section of the museum rocks, but I do not know much about geology, I'm sorry to say. I don't mind not knowing. Get it? I don't mind. All right. Look at that old wheel up there. Looks like maybe part of an old windmill. This is amazing. I got the whole place to myself back here too. Look at this old traffic signal there. That is awesome. Got little mock-ups of the dentist's office, barber shop, a lawyer's office with appropriate artifacts inside, donated from real dentists and barbers and their families. Nobody likes the lawyer's office. Wow, and it keeps going. There's all these like mock-up businesses along the sides where they could display collections of artifacts donated from local families and from local areas. Dude, this is the kind of place that most people just drive right past on the interstate. You never know that it's here. I didn't pay anything to come in here. I think it's all done by donation. So you could technically come here and bring the whole family for free if you can't afford to make a donation. And there's something for everyone. If you're into old newspapers, they've got that. If you're into the old Mission Cafe here, they've got old mortuary clothing and an old glass windowed coffin so you could peek in on your relatives before you put them in the ground. Old mercantile displays, post office displays, buggies, the old grocery store. Wonder if they got Prince Albert in a can. If they do, they better let him out. And then they got all kinds of displays and artifacts from the railroad, because it was, of course, a railroad town, including some people's like miniature railroads, pulp magazines dealing with the railroads, a whole display about Harvey houses, which are also famous not just all over the Southwest, but along Route 66. That's where most people have heard of them. Look at that. Oil cans, signal lanterns. Ooh, look at this. Railroad timetables. You can buy some old school vintage timetables. All right, I'm reaching the end here. No, I'm not. It keeps on going. Look at these old fire department vehicles. I mean, this room has got more stuff in it than a lot of little local fire department museums have. Look at those police uniforms over there. No, what am I talking about? These are fire uniforms. Those are some snappy looking firefighters. Dude, automobiles used to look so much cooler. I know our modern ones work better, but look at that. Oh my gosh, look at this horse-drawn petroleum wagon to deliver motor fuel, kerosene, and motor oil before there were trucks and cars to do it. If you had a car out here and there were no roads to connect you to another town, how are you going to get your fuel? I guess by horse. That is an artifact from a very specific time period. We got, speaking of automobiles, some nice old vintage automobiles here. I like this one right there with the high back seat up here. This was the first auto in Deming. This old REO was the first car in town. So the automobile came here in 1907. Look at that old bike on the ceiling. Those look like an old soapbox derby car. It just keeps going and going and going and knitting and knitting. I'm starting to feel like I've been in here for a very long time. So I'm gonna wander backwards through the museum and see if there aren't even more rooms that I've missed.
That guy called us police officers.
I know. Can you believe these idiots from California?
They're ruining every place.
My one regret about this is I thought, I'll pop in the local museum for a quick visit before I hit the road and drive hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of miles today. And you can't make a quick visit to this place. This is amazing. This is like small town Disneyland. Oh, I can already see a whole wing that I have missed. Look at this. The military room. Behold the glory, as Charles Phoenix would say. How much do we love rifles? I know. Got everything from modern military uniforms to old-timey uniforms and jet pilot helmets, photos of local veterans everywhere. I've always hoped to find one of these, for sale I mean. Look at that, it's a practice bomb. How cool would it be to have a practice bomb in your house? Oh, I didn't even see the old jail doors. This is from the old county jail, 1918 to 1975. They were put here in 1980. Dude, they've got old leg irons in here. Pieces of old prisoner chains. The old bunks are in here, and the old toilet, even the old bedpan. I'm just so incredibly impressed by the pottery. Oh man, I really like that. That's called The Last Stop. Okay, I'm gonna leave my donation and get out of here. Oh no, I'm not. Because the ladies in the front reminded me there's an upstairs. Oh no, look at the size of this. Look at this, they have so many more exhibits. Oh my gosh. And the upstairs has an upstairs. There's Campfire Girls stuff. There's Deming Wildcats memorabilia. More law offices and home displays and this old gymnasium. Look at this, somebody's whole dining room set is here. Look at this lady laying down up there. She's tired because she roamed through the whole museum and tried to look at everything. Fatal mistake. Oh, there's even little sneaky offshoots upstairs. Ah! Look at the medical room. Look at this poor fella in an iron lung. I know very recently there were still a couple people who were trapped in iron lungs from getting polio back in the day. That's crazy. I can't remember the last time I've seen one of these. Oh no! There were baby iron lungs. No! A lot of medical tools in here that don't look awfully comfortable to use. I love these bedpans, particularly the one with the little pee-pee spout on it. I don't know what else to call it, sorry. And then look at this, 666 salve. I don't think I would apply that salve. Old x-ray machine, yeah, 666 salve. I don't know about that. Okay, clearly there's a lot more to see. If I ever get to make a return visit, I can see bear traps up there. I can see luggage, more arrowhead displays. I can see more toys. Oh, there's a Hispanic room over here and a quilt room. Jeez Louise, my Aunt Diane would love to see this. Oh man, and then the lace. No lace, Mrs. Bennett, I beg you. I like this, the Hispanic room over here. Got some sexy outfits and lots of cool old relics. Dang it, I need more time. Why must my home be so far away? It's weird that I live in a town that is 80 billion times bigger and has Disneyland in it. And we have nothing even approaching this when it comes to a local history museum. And don't tell me about the museo. It's tiny and it's weird. It's all right for what it is, but they just do not have the floor space of this place. Okay, I gotta get out of here now or I'm never getting out of here. Run for it, Marty! Okay. That was a speed run. I was only in there for just a little bit over an hour doing the speed run, trying not to read and get too hooked on some of the info. You see why I love small towns so much? I mean, look at this. Small town America is definitely beset by troubles. It's got issues and hardships. But if you add a couple of days to your road trip and make time for stuff like this, it is worth it. And speaking as somebody who obviously loves and enjoys theme parks very much, having made many more theme park visits than the average person and got to stay in amazing themed hotels and all the whole resort experience, the whole thing, I must tell you that stops like this stand out a lot more in your memory. And with a road trip, not only do you get to see America, you get to meet people, you get to talk to people, see things you would never otherwise see, but you're not just having the same experience as the next fella, right? It's a choose your own adventure kind of situation, which is why I fell in love with it. By the way, in addition to the museum, there's a visitor center here with an old train. Much like the old steam engines, I gotta be rolling out of this town in a second. It's closed today, the visitor center, but you can still see the train here. And for some reason, a huge public park with a giant pit in it called Pit Park with a lake in the pit that has this little corner of fenced off dinosaur statues, presumably fenced off for our own protection. I don't know where all these dinosaur statues came from originally, but they're here just chilling in front of Star Max across the street. Movies, bowling, golf, arcade, and restaurant. So kind of an indoor theme park there for Deming. Pretty cool. As I mentioned from the very beginning, I used to blast through this town on the interstate all the time. I'm sure I've filled up at various truck stops and stuff here. Back when I was in a band, look at this, no climbing. Visual inspection only. Always rushing from point A to point B, but there's so much, oftentimes anyway, between point A and point B if you take the time. If I stand for anything, I stand for that. Look at this, here is Pit Park. There's the lake down there. Now you would think, as I would, oh, maybe this was like a quarry or something like that they converted. No, this was a WPA project where they intentionally dug out this massive pit. I fell in the pit. Built an amphitheater over there and who knows what else. Look at that, it's got its own streams and bridges and a lot of people fishing out there. They got kayaks for rent. Wild. Come on, I could stop being a little girly man. I could start working out over here. Yes. Maybe this is where my life changes. I can pump myself up. Look at that. I'm pumping myself up. Oh my gosh. I'm very heavy, so this is quite, this is a strain. Ouch. That's right, I can lift 215 pounds. Look at that, like it's nothing. All right, well, farewell, Pit Park. Farewell, Deming, New Mexico. I got a long drive ahead of me. Okay, it's only about an hour from Deming to the Arizona border, give or take a little bit. Luckily, I love wide open spaces and staring at trains going by in the desert. But even though it's only an hour long, there's a couple of stops I want to make. First is this, Bowlin's Continental Divide Historic Trading Post. Bowlin is the company that you see all those billboards along the highway. My favorite billboard for this place advertised snake stuff, and who doesn't like snake stuff? They operate a chain of gas stations and trading posts and fireworks stores. Some are huge, some are a little bit smaller. We passed the Butterfield Station one earlier. It's been modernized, so that's what the kind of modern, smaller ones look like. I like the Continental Divide one here because it's on the Continental Divide, right? So west of here, the water drains out to the Pacific eventually. East of here, it all drains out to the Atlantic or the Gulf of Mexico. Because people used to love pulling over to take a picture with the sign for the Continental Divide, Bowlin placed this trading post here in the 1950s. And you saw what the modern ones look like. This one is much more of a time capsule, which is why I always love pulling over. You can see this particular one no longer has the gas pumps here. I believe this place would have gone out of business a long time ago if Bowlin's hadn't kept it open for historical purposes. So no gas or modern Dairy Queen here, just hokey, fun, touristy stuff to buy. I love this right here. Just married. Oh no, the driver's basketball head deflated. But I love that they turned this porte cochere here for the gas pumps into a little fun photo op. Dude, that's a cool old truck. Something that looks like it could have been in that museum back there. Now, Bowlin's history goes all the way back to the 19-teens. In 1912, Claude Bowlin established a small trading post operation in New Mexico. It grew along Route 66 and US 80, and then in the 50s they started building bigger ones like this with things like this giant teepee here and lots of billboards to lure travelers off the highways. There were many older Bowlin buildings, some of which I visited along Route 66, which have fallen into decay, that had adobe walls and were built out of local materials. Most of the ones you can visit today were moved closer to the interstate when the interstate took over from the US highways. As you can see, this place has been around for a long time. Ooh, I love this. When it gets windy in the desert, you definitely need this. I want to see some snake stuff. Ooh, it smells good in here. Oh, a little history. See, according to this, the original store was on the Continental Divide, but the freeway literally went right over the top of it, so they had to move to this location in the 50s. Look at all these wares. Southwestern wares. I should get this lamp for my Nana. She would absolutely adore it. If I ever own a house, I'm getting these glazed tiles and putting them like into the shower, especially the Route 66 ones. I love these. Lots of cowboy hats, Native American jewelry, and then look at this back here. Back in the back near the restrooms, they got all the fun toys. And not just the literal toys like the bow and arrows and this medicine man here, but the massive collection of fireworks. Gonna need a lot of these for America's 250th birthday. I don't know where I'm gonna end up. I had plans. Unfortunately, they were plans with my friend Adam, who is now passed away. I gotta find some kind of special place to celebrate. Dude, look at the size of that selection. You never know which ones are the good ones and which ones are just okay until you light them up. But I like the name of these ones, Excalibur and Excalibur Platinum. Oh, in-store special $9.99 for the Big Gin assortment or the Godfather. Look at the size of that selection. I like that there's one called Taco Tuesday. I probably said this before, but who gets to name the fireworks? I want that job. I like this one. Boombox, all aerial assortment. And of course, the Destroyer. All right, I didn't see very much snake stuff inside of the store today, but just to support, and I'm a big fan of Bowlin's, especially the smaller, older locations like this. I availed myself of the opportunity to buy some chips and, of course, an incense burner right here. These are the best. That company, Incense of the West, makes the best burners and the best smells. Anyway, Deming took up so much of my time, I don't know if we're gonna cross the Arizona border together in this video, or I'll have to make 2 in one day, which is very rare for me. Normally I like to keep them going, but then if they get over a certain length, people start to riot and get angry. I'd rather do, 3-hour videos every couple of days, but that's not the way people like to digest content on the internet. Speaking of things I like, since I do travel with my own food, I like these. These Oberto things are pretty darn good, gluten-free. Of course, I always bring my own folding chair. I had to buy this one from a Walmart for 10 bucks earlier on in the trip, and then I just sit out here and enjoy my little snack. They give you a little wooden spear to spear your chicken. This is genuinely what I needed right here. I love this. All right, time to get back on the highway. All right, the next town, the next stop, Lordsburg, New Mexico. Was not very far away. Decided to get off the freeway and onto the old highway here, cruising into town. Check out Main Street. This is what I'm saying about layers of old highway stops. You can see the old truck stops and rock shops and motels that have seen better days, that have become discount motels, but at one time were brand new. They were the lap of roadside luxury. There's an old auto court right there. Look at that place. Old motel court and filling station. Like highway archaeology. You can see exactly why these towns were built, because on the right-hand side you have the railroad. I'm sure there were all kinds of cargo yards and stuff. And then look at this on the left. That's definitely an old, cool looking gas station. I have no idea what this was, but man, is that an impressive building. Oh, dude. All right, so it took a little bit of digging, but that apparently was an old hotel, the Hotel Hidalgo. Now kind of abandoned, and it appears that most of the buildings on this road are kind of in the same condition. This would have been the old Front Street up against the railroad tracks. Later it became US 70. So one of the old original US highways here. You can see it's all quiet. Almost everything is shut. Now called Motel Drive. No doubt because of all the motels built along US 70 here. I'm actually pulled over at what was clearly an old gas station. So all along the railroad tracks here you had gas stations. I can see some old highway style businesses across the way. Here on the corner you got the old Triple J Cafe. The building is now for sale and closed. I love the look of that rather mid 20th century real Mexican food El Charro Cafe over the tracks. This is kind of heartbreaking. This is not Main Street. We're gonna hook a left onto Main Street in just a minute. Maybe Main Street has fared a little better. I'm sad about the Triple J Cafe. Come on, man. Just cruising down old Highway 70, about to take a left onto Main Street right now. I can see the Dollar General is in good shape. I believe that's the City Hall right there on the right. The Masonic Lodge in the Azteca building. Whoa! Dollar General seems to be the main business. Some other cool looking buildings. Classic little veterans memorials and a little park back behind me. Some small, very New Mexico looking houses, but not much going on Main Street. Let's get closer to the highway realignment and the interstate. Ah, Saucedo's Supermarket. That looks very cool. I know there's some museums in town, so there must be some other historic areas. But in terms of a quick look, unless we want to start getting into like the 1950s and later layers, not much to see. Lordsburg is very tiny, has not fared as well as Deming, that's for sure. Although, maybe on a future visit, I'll find the hidden gems. All right, just 20 more miles to the Arizona border. Off we go. Getting pretty close now. It comes to mind that this part of the country was once the home of the Chiricahua Apache and literally home to Geronimo. Dude, talk about thrilling stories. Geronimo's life was crazier than any action movie ever. Sometimes when I was a kid, I'd see like the postcards or whatever of Geronimo and be like, what's the big deal about these old characters they're always talking about? It's because their stories, their lives were insane. It's too bad like Western stories, like, I don't know, there's like a taint to it, right? You know, they don't make a lot of Western movies now. When people think Western, they think of like 90s mom country music or something. But some of the true stories of the Old West are stranger than fiction. Just amazing, mind-blowing lives that these people led out here. And speaking of crazy lives people led out here, look at this, the old ghost town of Steins. Now all fenced off. Oh, no, wait. It's unblocked. I still feel weird coming down here, though. This used to be somewhat of a tourist attraction. There was an old fella who owned it. Used to be out here of a day. We used to stop here in the band days all the time. But it is an old ghost town. There you go. See the private property, no trespassing. The fence over the old driveway there. That is because, sadly, if I'm remembering the story correctly, somebody random got off the interstate here, came out here in the middle of the night and killed the owner of the property. And see, it's all fenced off now. The sign, no drones, no trespassing, private property, do not enter. There's a couple people living out here in mobile homes and old trailers, and that's about it. And now the old ghost town buildings of Steins are off limits to travelers. I believe the town was named after Steins Peak, which I think is this, off in the distance. It was a real town, sort of. It was a water stop for the Southern Pacific Railroad, which the tracks are still just right across this gravel that I'm sitting on. There were hotels, post offices, everything. I think the old guy's name was Larry. We used to stop here on every tour. Sad story. Hope somebody preserves the town, and maybe one day it'll be open again. Anyway, we're just 3 miles, or maybe only 2 miles from the Arizona border now. We're almost done. He was a real nice guy. Guess I better look up the name later. I'll put it on the screen if I remember. But yeah, he would sit out there and just tell you all about Steins and get so stoked when we come back. You're like, hey, it's the band. I don't think he ever remembered the name of our band, but you'd always remember who we were. Okay, state line is coming up. Just ahead. It was only a one-night stay in the land of enchantment this time, but that doesn't mean I didn't enjoy it. Here it is. Right here, the state line. And we're now in Arizona. Now, I cannot cross into southeastern Arizona without thinking of the Earps and the Clantons and the Cowboys, which is why I pulled over in San Simon, Arizona over here, which is, there's not much here. I mean, the main thing here is the high school, and I'm surprised there's even a high school here. It's mostly old, abandoned gas stations and truck stops, not much going on. But it was a water stop on the railroad back in the times of the OK Corral shootout, and famously, this valley out here, the San Simon Valley, whoa, was where most of the cowboys and the outlaws had their ranches. Not that you're gonna see an old western town down here. We are pretty much downtown. This is about all you get. So I'm guessing the high school mostly has kids bust in from the surrounding country. I just didn't want to pass through without stopping to mention it. And in that spirit, I'd like to make one more stop with you on this adventure. A place that should have some more physical remnants of the olden days. By the way, we are not very far from Tombstone. We're in that part of the world. And as I say, this next stop will be related. All right, I'm off the interstate once again, this time in old historic downtown Willcox, Arizona. Other than stopping at the truck stop off the interstate, this is a place I've never been. And yet, because Benson and Tombstone, Arizona are, you know, fairly close by, I've been in the area many, many times, but never have I set foot in the historic Old West downtown. Before I do anything else, look at this. I actually heard them crying before I saw them. There's little baby goats for sale right on the street corner over here. Now, Willcox, Arizona is a very historical Old West town, as I just mentioned. Look at this over here. There are multiple museum and research centers. I like this one over here. The Sulphur Springs Valley Historical Society Museum and Research Library. It does not appear to be open today, but there are many artifacts right in the window. And I love this old sign, Freeman Shoes for Men, the Toggery. This building was built in 1925 and is now a museum, as you see here. Gives me more reason to come back someday. And then across the road, the Chiricahua Regional Museum. That appears to be open, at least for the moment, along with the bookstore next door. But before I can even think about doing that, I am headed down Maley Street here towards the railroad tracks, toward Railroad Avenue down here. Walking under the porch of the old historic Willcox Commercial Hotel, built in 1916. The town itself started in the 1880s as a water stop on the Southern Pacific Railroad. And there was a famous shooting down here in a saloon that used to be on one of these corners. I'm coming down to look for any kind of historical marker. There's an old railroad depot right there. Wow, look at that. That's actually amazing looking. Oh, I think this is exactly what I'm looking for. Yeah, according to this plaque on the wall, this used to be the headquarters saloon. The building was here from the 1890s until it burned down in 1940 and probably looked very similar to the wine tasting building that's here now. This right here, the headquarters saloon location, is where there was a famous gunfight in which Warren Earp was killed. Warren Earp, you say? Warren? That's not Wyatt, that's not Virgil, that's not Morgan. Yep, Warren Earp is the forgotten Earp brother who's always left out of the movies for the most part. Warren was the youngest Earp brother, and he was in Tombstone during the famous events of the gunfight at the OK Corral, etc., the Vendetta ride. But he was never really a lawman. He was kind of the hothead of the group and was kind of a mixed up young fella. He was part of the famous Vendetta ride with Wyatt Earp. He was hanging out with Wyatt's crew as they were hunting down cowboys and things like that. But he was mostly a teamster or a laborer, camp helper, kind of a hanger-on, a gambler, a saloon man, a rancher. He had a varied career because, unlike Wyatt Earp and Doc Holliday and the more famous Earps, he was not indicted for murder or wanted for murder in connection to all the stuff in the Vendetta ride, not in the same way or to the same degree. He eventually drifted back into Arizona, into the small railroad town of Willcox, where he could find work and live cheap. And on this corner in the headquarters saloon, he got into an argument with a local ranch hand named John Boyett, and Boyett shot Warren in the back. He died the next day and was buried just outside of this town. Along with the other Earp brothers, he had survived quite a lot of stuff. So to end his days in 1900 in a stupid drunken bar fight, kind of a bummer. He was the youngest brother, but he did not outlive Wyatt Earp, or even Virgil Earp, who died in 1905. So he may have been the youngest, but he died early. Been to Tombstone many times. I've been to Morgan Earp's grave, Virgil Earp's grave, but never Warren Earp's grave, which I am definitely gonna look for before we skip town. Look at this though. This is Rex Allen. Born and raised in Willcox, Arizona. He used to sing at the barber shop on this very street, the plaque says. He was kind of comrades with Gene Autry and Roy Rogers, John Wayne, all those guys, and narrated a lot of Walt Disney's nature films. Rex Allen, one of the famous singing cowboys. And look at this, there's a Rex Allen Museum and the Willcox Cowboy Hall of Fame across the street. Look at that in front of the statue. Look at all the cattle brands down here in the sidewalk. That's a cool idea. I'm loving these old buildings on Railroad Avenue. Some are boarded up, but others have some nice, fancy, prosperous looking businesses in them. I'm also loving seeing the old theater, which is closed for a remodel there. Look at this back here. There's a stage next to the Rex Allen Museum for country music performances. An old mural. I ran out of words there. Just went, an old mural. Yeah, look at this theater, man. They are expanding the facility at the moment. The Willcox Historic Theater. I just missed a classic car going by. Oh, we could have done a classic car alert in memory of our good friend, Adam the Woo. It's weird, there's a Willcox Arts and Heritage building right there. So potentially another museum. This town is packed with museums, but this is what I came to see. Down on the corner, the little wine tasting bar. I'm sure I'll be back sometime. I'll tell the fuller story if I ever get a chance to of Warren Earp and his misdeeds and sad end, but this is where it happened. This is where he took the last steps before being fatally shot, mortally wounded. Obviously, he survived to leave the saloon and die the next day, but still, one of the Earp brothers met their end right here, right on this corner in what is now a wine tasting place. So, in a way, still a saloon. Huh? I love when they make restaurants out of old railroad cars. We used to have a place like that in Anaheim, right by Disneyland. Look at this. The dining car, big Tex barbecue. And of course, I'm loving these old Western buildings, specifically this old railroad station and depot. A lot of cars parked out in front of it, so I assume it's still a railroad building. Doesn't seem like a restaurant or anything like that. Seems like it's still in use. Wow. Oh, here we have the railroad dog park with an old railroad car parked right inside of it. Got these trains here as part of the Willcox Art and Heritage Trail, all this stuff. Man, there's a lot more to see here than I ever expected. I can't believe I've never stopped through here before. We're just seconds off the interstate. I knew about the Earp history, but I've always read about Willcox as it existed in 1900 or whatever. I never knew what was down here now, and I am pleasantly surprised. One more look at the former site of the headquarters saloon. See that side door there? Supposedly this is laid out. I've read articles, and who knows how accurate they are, but this is laid out much the same way. So the guy came back in here, or so-and-so came through here. There's a whole story behind this, but it'll have to wait for another day because as you can see, the shadows are getting long. I'd love to come back and check out the museums next time. I'm always looking for excuses to come back to Tombstone. Right now, I'm just on my vision quest home, right? I have a very particular reason I need to get home very, very soon. But we're really only one long day's drive from Anaheim, so maybe I'll get a chance to come back sooner rather than later. All right, as I mentioned, I'd be very remiss if I left this town without trying to track down the grave of Warren Earp, who is indeed still laying here in Willcox. All right, I just crossed the tracks. I am hitting every pocket of no cell service and not being able to look stuff up. But somebody told me all I have to do is come down here and turn left on 3rd Street. Sorry, I'm starting to stutter now. I'm getting tired. Well, I hope I'm not being led astray, because 3rd Street ain't nothing but dirt. Oh no, there's a sign right there. Historic Cemetery, okay. I'm gonna do a little off-roading here. Hope we find it. There were a few puddles and some desert pinstriping to get through, but I found it. The Old City Cemetery. It's a heck of a site. Doesn't look like it's that frequently visited. Warren wasn't the most famous Earp, so we'll see what we can do. Hopefully there's no snakes around. Wow, you just know. There are so many graves here that are lost to time. You can see old original wooden headboards, no names on them. Probably once abounded in this place. Here's an old wooden headboard. A lot of them were replicated in the 1950s and such. You can see some of them are protected by little chain link fences, and I think I see the grave we're looking for off in the distance. Thanks to Wyatt Earp becoming so famous from Stuart Lake's book, and then later all the movies and TV shows starting way back in the 30s. Wyatt lived in Los Angeles and therefore knew a lot of people in old Hollywood, and so after he passed away, a lot of them were keen to memorialize him. There's a lot out there about Earp history, that's for sure, but what's lesser known and just as fascinating, like I said, is the Apache history down here. Geronimo, Mangus, Colorado, Chiricahuas, and somewhere out there is the Chiricahua National Monument and the Hideout and all these cool places. I'd like to come and do a trip. I gotta find someone who's an expert in that stuff though to lead me out there, because I don't really own an off-road vehicle, and I'm sure there are places out there that are hard to reach. But yeah, I'd love to go out there one day into the Chiricahua National Monument and tell that whole story someday. Look at this. Some more modern. I can just tell by the routed letters on them. Wooden headstones, but even those, or headboards, I guess, even those are decaying into dust. Once again, like I was talking about in Griffin, Georgia, when we were looking for Doc Holliday's father's grave, and according to Georgians, Doc Holliday's grave out there. So, hey, very related to this story. Warren Earp would have known Doc very well. You just think each one of these people was somebody's son or daughter, somebody's brother, somebody's best friend. I can't help but think, obviously, of my best friend who just passed away. Now, he was a beloved YouTuber, so he'll be beloved and remembered for a long time, for many years to come, by many, many people. He touched a lot of lives. But all of us eventually, I mean, that doesn't matter, really, fame, for good or ill, because one day, no matter how famous you are, no matter how beloved you are, no matter what you do, we'll all end up in a place like this, or possibly a place even more forgotten. And it's very likely no one will remember our names. I mean, ultimately, the sun might explode, right? A meteor might hit Earth, and all of this will be erased. Something in our modern world we tend to try very hard not to think about ever, and yet something we should probably be thinking about all the time, because nothing is certain in this world but death and taxes. Dude, and here he is. Warren Baxter Earp, the mostly forgotten Earp brother. Check that out. 1855 to 1900. Remembering a man of the West, it says on this plaque, which was placed by quite a few people. Wow. And there's even a little ad for a publishing company up here. So clearly some old Western history fans. It says on here, the Wild Bunch and the Hells Bells of Tombstone got together some money and put together this really crazy looking, cool tombstone and concrete marker over Warren Earp's grave. Sometimes in places like this, it's very hard to know where the actual grave is. And that's the case with Doc Holliday's actual grave in Glenwood Springs, Colorado. They don't know exactly where it is, so they've put up a headstone similar to this, in that it's like modern and put there by fans in the cemetery for a place to remember Doc Holliday. But a lot of years went by between those simple wooden headboards that decayed into dust and Old West fans coming out and then marking the places. So I don't know about the accuracy of this spot. I don't know if Warren would be down here in this little dip, or maybe up on one of these hills, or perhaps anywhere in the cemetery. But I still think it's cool. This was his final resting place, and there is a headstone to mark him and a place to remember it. By the way, I don't know if you guys can hear that, but I hear a lot of birds out there. Not just the crows, there's some noise out there. Very strange, a very strange sound. And I'm used to weird Arizona desert sounds. Anyway, Warren Earp, or Warren Baxter Earp. Wonder where the Baxter came from. Interesting. Well, that's going to do it for this adventure from the Old West. These people lived much harder and more hardcore lives than I could do. So it's definitely cool that we get to pay our respects to the hardihood of early pioneering people who came out to the middle of nowhere to try to stake out a living and ended up staking out a dying place. Many of the names have faded away, but we can always come out and pay our respects. I am now pushing on farther into Arizona. Have not decided whether to start the next adventure right after this one ceases or just wait until morning. Haven't decided what that next adventure will be. As I say, I'm always looking for excuses to go to Tombstone because I love that place. I've often wanted to live there. If I won the lottery, I would have a little place in Tombstone. Oh, I'd make the sickest Tombstone Airbnb. That's what I would do. The other part of my brain is like, dude, save it for a purpose trip, you know, an on-purpose trip. Because as many times as I've been there, there's still a lot of stuff that I have not ever done in and around Tombstone. Again, it'd be cool to meet some local people who are well-versed in the history, who could drive you around and give you somewhat of a guided tour. That'd be neat. Oh, there's more headstones down under this yucca. Takes very little to get me to drive out to Tombstone. So I think I might save that for a future trip. Morgan Earp, by the way, which was the brother assassinated in Tombstone, his grave is actually in Colton, California. So not far away from Disneyland, very close to Riverside. The whole Earp family at one time or another lived in Colton, California. In fact, Virgil Earp still has a home standing in Old Town Colton that most people don't know about. Very few people visit. So maybe after we get back, go take a peek at that. All right, time for me to go. Thank you guys for watching. If you like these road trip style adventures, I want to do a whole lot of them this year. And if you want to help out with that, join the Patreon, or maybe buy some sick merch. I have the best hot sauce in the world. Much better than any of the roadside hot sauces I saw today at Bowlin's. No offense, Bowlin's. Maybe you should get mine, huh? We're restocking the books. They should be back in just a few days. And the Randomland hats, so you can help out that way. But the biggest thing you could do, the most helpful thing, share these videos with a friend you think would like them. And hang out and watch all the way to the very end, which it appears you have done, which means, my friends, you've done your duty. You can come to the Old West and sleep well. I'll see you next time.
Medicine man knows ancient truth.
What ancient truth? So made it out to the west side of Tucson to this really new My Place hotel. Spotless as usual. I'm giving a shout out because they hooked me up. And I like this place. Got a kitchen in it. Look at that. By the way, the folks that work for My Place who hooked me up with this stay did not ask for the shout out. I'm giving it anyway because I like it. First time I've kind of felt at home since I left Walt Disney World property. Anyway, look at that. Got to get groceries, eat a little healthier today. Yes. Hotel and sleep well.